Michelle Medley-Daniel, and I'm the co-director for the Fire Adapted Communities Learning Network. Today, I want to share two distinct ideas with you, and sometimes these get confused, so I want to really emphasize that these are separate things. So the first thing I'm going to talk about a little bit is fire adapted communities as a general concept and kind of framework. And the second thing is to share a little bit about the FAC network, which is the way we're investing in sharing and spreading fire adaptation ideas. So fire adaptation and fire adapted communities as a concept is about changing how communities across the country relate to wildfire. It's kind of an open source idea. It's not something that is a predetermined set of actions or programs. And FACnet is an effort designed to spread ideas and successful approaches to adaptation through connecting practitioners. Next slide, please. So what is a fire adapted communities concept, and what is a fire adapted community? It's a coordinated and holistic approach. It's all about community resilience and the ongoing process of cultural adaptation. So the work of fire adapted communities is never done, sort of a journey of relating to fire and your landscape and your other community members. Fire adapted communities involves not just fire departments or residents or land management agencies or businesses. It involves all of those entities working together and doing actions that will be appropriate for the cultural context of that place. So it really is important that there's a tailored and coordinated effort. And the end goal of a fire adapted communities effort is that your community is able to live more safely with wildfire and that fire is able to play its more natural role in the landscape. Next slide, please. So who's involved in a fire adapted community and when would they take actions? So as I said, at its root, fire adaptation is a community resilience effort, and to minimize the negative impacts of fire while allowing fire to play its role, you need everyone to be engaged. If everyone's sharing responsibility, then you're far more likely to have resilience and able to be successful. I think another thing that's important to point out in a FAC effort is that it's really critical to engage vulnerable populations and be thinking about not just people who have capacity right now or who have traditionally been players, but who wildfire does impact, and thinking about how to engage them in a productive way. So the ways that you as an individual or your business or your organization or your agency can help in a fire adapted communities effort will vary. There are different needs in every community and different needs at every time. No matter who you are or if your community is before the fire or after the fire or during a fire, there are things that you can do. You can see the graphic up on the screen here, and it depicts one version of community actions. And so fire adapted communities isn't limited to traditional roles or the roles depicted here, though there's nothing wrong with these, and they're often very effective strategies. I think it's just important to acknowledge that a fire adapted communities effort really is tailorable to the cultural needs and norms of your specific place. So I think it's really important to also know that there are actions to be taken at every time in this cycle. So there's things that need to happen before a fire, there's things that people can do during a fire, and there's things that should be done in recovery. And as we know, this cycle will restart itself. So you're sort of always in one of these cycles, depending on the fire you're looking at. So again, the idea with fire adapted communities is not to prescribe a specific set of actions for people, but to build connections, skills, and resilience for better wildfire outcomes. Next slide, please. So what does fire adapted communities look like on the ground? I want to sort of drill into this a little bit and give a couple of examples. So if you look at the graphic here, you can see in the dark green around the earth, there are a bunch of examples of adaptation practices or strategies that a community could take. And some of these would be really appropriate to take before a fire, and some are related to during fire response issues, and some are after fire issues. And then within each of these strategies, there are a variety of tools and approaches that a community could adopt and use. and you're going to get the pleasure of hearing from some of the leaders of some of the programs and tools of these today after I'm done talking. But I want to give one example. So if you're a fire department and you are wanting to engage your community more in thinking about enhancing your evacuation and preparedness program, you might choose to participate in the Ready, Set, Go program. You might adopt a community signage project. You might run evacuation drills. You might implement a new reverse 911 system. So that's just one example of an entity trying to think about a role that they might play in fire adaptation and how they are going to engage their community in a variety of tools that and thinking about which one's the most appropriate for their community. So because communities and their challenges and contexts are all different, there's no one-size-fits-all approach, and you're going to have to kind of find your way with your fellow community members in terms of what's going to be the most transformative and going to help move your community along in terms of being able to live better with fire. Next slide, please. So just to reiterate, because anytime there's new language, and fire-adapted communities is somewhat new language, there can be confusion. Fire-adapted communities is not a checklist or an end state or a planning document. It is a concept and kind of an umbrella framework focused on helping people think about taking action to build resilience and live more safely with wildfire. All right, next slide. So now I'm moving on to the second and distinct idea that I want to present to you guys, and there has been a little bit of confusion sometimes about the Fire Adapted Communities Learning Network and the idea of fire adapted communities in general. So as I said before, fire adapted communities in general is an idea that anyone can adopt and utilize, and the FAC network is really an opportunity for practitioners to connect and share the ways that they are trying to use a FAC concept in their own communities. So I have the pleasure of working for the FACnet, and it's been an amazing learning experience for me to be connected to people all over the country who are innovating new ways to live with fire. Next slide, please. So really briefly about the FACnet, it was launched in 2013. And the purpose of the network was to support fire adapted communities practitioners by connecting them with their peers and providing them with tools and ideas and each other so they could move FAC practice forward and spread it further around the country. It's a national network of people and organizations that are working on building wildfire resilience capacity in fire-prone communities, and it's supported through a partnership between the Nature Conservancy, the Watershed Center, and the USDA Forest Service, and the Departments of the Interior. So folks on the call today are generally members of our affiliate network, and so you number, I think actually among 100 at this point. When we made these slides, we had just 80 members of the affiliate network, and there are also 24 core members that are working on intensive demonstration projects throughout the country. So at FACnet, we work to better understand the range of FAC practice and help communities on their unique journeys. Next slide. So just lastly, this is my contact information, and I encourage anyone that's interested in fire adaptation concepts or if you're a practitioner and you're interested in connecting with peers to check out our website or be in touch.